President Donald Trump is showing some bipartisanship, this time by going after a conservative on Twitter when he called pundit Ann Coulter a wacky nut job. Now, Coulter has been one of Trump's earliest supporters, but is now a consistent critic, well, mainly because when it comes to the wall. But Trump isn't going to back down, shockingly. He wants a total of $8.6 billion for a border wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. It's part of his latest budget, which isn't expected to win many people over in the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives. But hey, got to give the man credit for trying. For this story and more, we get the 360 view from our political panel. Democratic strategist Robin Bureau from Atlanta and Ted Harvey, chairman of the Committee to Defend the President from Denver, Colorado. Thank you so much for joining me, gentlemen.
Thank you, Scotty.
Okay, Ted, I got to start with you. I mean, obviously, we've seen Ann over the past few weeks. She's definitely not happy with the president, but the president's kind of politely held her, but he finally shot back. He was done with it. So, Ted, what do you make of the split between Ann Coulter and President Trump? Is this a long-term, or is this just a little quarrel they'll get over?
Personally, I think it's theater. I think Ann Coulter is playing the perfect antagonist to the far right, and Trump is looking like the moderate who has, for the last 2 years, has been trying to negotiate with the Democrats to come to a deal on the border wall, and the Democrats have been saying not one penny, and so now you still have Ann Coulter out there pushing on the border wall, and the president's going to get the border wall. He's going to fund it one way or the other, and he's going to fulfill the promise that he has given to the American people.
Well, that's the thing, Robin. Doesn't this kind of work against both of them, considering they kind of represent the same base, at least the same base got them elected? Does this not show that there's a splinter amongst that base when you have Ann Coulter going up against Donald Trump?
Yeah, that's what I've been noticing myself. I follow a lot of Republican blogs and a lot of Donald Trump supporter blogs, and they basically are indicating that they're sort of torn because they love Ann Coulter, support her, and they love the president, support him. So they're torn and don't really know what to do right now. One thing that I want to say is that I'm just grateful that the president, in nicknaming her, didn't go after her appearance, as he's done for many females before when he called Stormy Daniels horseface. I'm just glad that she got a different nickname other than going after her appearance.
Well, but that's the thing. But that's the thing, Robin. There's one thing this is showing, kind of the hypocrisy of it, to where, yes, he did attack her. It was a very low blow, superficial kind of look. And yet feminists are kind of sitting by the wayside. They're not attacking Donald Trump for attacking Ann Coulter because they hate Ann Coulter so much. So is this kind of showing the hypocrisy of honestly the feminists and the liberal left, because they hate actually her more than they hate the message that's happening to her?
Scotty, you just hit the nail on the head, and I'm glad that you called it out. So, I love calling out hypocrisy regardless of what side of the aisle it's on. So by all means, call out the hypocrisy right now of my colleagues on the left, because this is hypocrisy in its greatest form.
Okay, so then that's the thing, Ted. I have to come back to it and just ask, if Trump builds this wall or somehow proves to Ann Coulter that he's gotten this wall built, do you think she'll be back on the side, and will people actually trust her again, or is she really just a fair weather, one-issue friend?
Well, I think it's interesting that Robin's reading the Republican blogs, because I can tell you whenever I post stories about Ann Coulter on our Facebook page, the Committee to Defend the President, everybody, almost to a person, has decided to throw Ann Coulter under the bus because she's not supporting the president 100%. So I think the president has a very strong, passionate following, and those that cross him are going to have to pay for it. And I would throw that out, that's also Republican congressmen and Republican senators that don't support the president on declaring a state of emergency on the southern border.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, Ted, because I could also bring up another issue that came out today. Sarah Sanders gave a press conference, like always, is quite interesting, where she said that today the president will make a decision on whether or not to actually pardon Paul Manafort. We're still talking about Paul Manafort. And do you think this would be a good move for Trump right now, or go on and let him serve what most people consider to be a very lenient sentence that the judge gave him the other day? Ted.
Well, I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of Paul Manafort. I've always had questions about him, and and rightly so, because if you look at all of these, what he's actually been indicted for is about things that happened 12, 20, 25 years ago, nothing to do with the administration, nothing to do with the campaign. The reason why he is in jail is because he's a friend of the president's. And that you shouldn't go to jail just because you are a friend of the president. The only reason why Mueller is doing the investigation and actually indicting him is simply because he was trying to get Manafort to say something against the president with this bogus Russia collusion story.
Well, that's the thing, Robin. Right now, let's say the president has, unfortunately, a wide group of people that if he wanted to play part in, he could have his, choice of stack of cards that he wanted to. What does it actually help the president, though, if he issues a pardon for any of them, much less Paul Manafort?
Ooh, I think that would be bad optics at best right now, especially for Paul Manafort. We were expecting his charges to be somewhere in the range of 20 to 25 years. So for him to get 48 months, I think is very lenient. People who commit far more petty crimes are sentenced to that sentence. So I think it would be bad on his move, and I think the president's smart enough to know that, Scotty.
Well, real quick, talking about petty moves, right now you have Adam Schiff calling for President Trump to come before Congress and testify, sort of like what we saw Cohen do a couple weeks ago. If you were friends with President Trump, do you think it's smart for him to get a grilling from people like Alexandria Cortez and all of the other wonderful slate of characters that we saw on display a few weeks ago? Do you think President Trump should do that?
Bring it. Go right ahead.
I think either way, I think it would definitely probably have Super Bowl ratings by the end of it. Ted, do you think do you think that he's actually going to do that? Do you think that's something that he might actually consider?
Absolutely not. The Mueller investigation was a witch hunt. This is nothing but political gamesmanship when they know for the fact that Mueller's going to come forward and say there was no collusion, there was no obstruction of justice. Now they've got to have something else to throw to the American people to keep this narrative up for why Trump won the election and beat Hillary Clinton. This is nothing but political theater, and Trump and all of those that have been subpoenaed should say, no, we're not going to come testify before these jokesters at the United States Congress.
But both of you have to admit that even in the back of his mind, Trump dreams at night that he would love to actually address the entire stock of Congress, and we would turn in and watch it just like we watched the Kardashians. Thanks for joining me, you two.
We could pay off the national deficit by making it pay-per-view. There you go.
That's how we get out of debt. Finally, we have a common sense solution there. Thank you, Robin, and thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Scotty.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.